Hi, it's John here. Just working with my CrossFit client again, and we come across an exercise that I find particularly interesting and challenging. So, what I want to do is just show you how this looks kind of close up, and then we can sort of go through and have a look, see what you think about improving technique and movement. I had a quick sneak look before. This is a handstand push-up, and it was interesting. On the right side we have Kaiser under fatigue. On the left side we have Kaiser performing their movement fresh, and so I'm kind of looking for differences. I'm looking to see if I can find places we can improve performance. But actually, when I went through this, is quite remarkable, really, to me. So if we see, like, the initial leg drop is a little bit earlier on the fatigue than the non-fatigue. But if you look at that final position, look how similar they are. You've possibly got a little more drop on the right leg on the fatigue side than perhaps the not fatigued, but I'd say that's pretty similar in all aspects. And the fact there's a bit of rotation and turnout and movement and things, you're just seeing stuff on there that we've already seen in the squat and the deadlift. I think that's just part of our client's style. So then we see the kick. Now I'm really interested in this as a move anyway, just to work out what we should see going on. Now I'm thinking, if you've seen the Faster Skills product, this is a rapid change of direction. I wanted to say it was like a vertical displacement similar to a squat, but actually it's a rapid change of direction. So what you see is the legs jump up and back. That pushes the hip through, and then as that hip comes through, that extension allows then the shoulders to push. Now if you look on the non-fatigue side, on the way up, if you just look at that movement, then it looks to me like we have a difference in pushing speed across, if you look across the shoulders. Now I'm calling them shoulders. On our course we call that pelvis, and it almost seems, and I might be out here, this might just be me seeing the pelvis do this, but kind of looks similar, whereas here you've got sort of a straighter pelvis and a straighter shoulder push on the fatigue side. Now as we watch that movement go up, if we look at the pace, there is a slight tilt now on the fatigue side, but actually things are straightened up pretty well. So when we get up to that top position, everything's lined up, where the initial movement here looks a bit more like, although it's not the fatigue pattern, it looks a little more fatigued, as in things look rotated and not as straight as they possibly could. Whereas if you look across at our fatigue pattern, things are a little more straight. So you have kind of a straighter pyramid support. There's a twist in the support here. There's still some twist, and if you know anything about Kaiser, if you've seen the Olympic lifts that we show on our Olympic lifting course, you'll know that this right shoulder doesn't really like to be too much in flexion. But actually in this scenario, when we reverse the movement, there's quite a lot of flexion happening there, and so, but both look pretty strong as movements. So I'm trying to pick things out where we might be able to help. So she's up at the top there. Look, it's about an equal amount of time, and then we start to see elbow bending. Both movements are really similar, although you can see on the fatigue, look, that it's still kind of straight, but you might see a little bit more of this right elbow tuck in. As it's an English saying, but I don't think there's enough going on there to write home and tell your mum about. But what you can see is the pelvis is travelling back a little quicker on the fatigue side towards the wall, whereas there's a lot more control then drop on the non-fatigue side. So it's almost on the fatigue side, it's like, can I get out of this movement quickly so I can generate the force to get back into that movement. So it's a quicker motion to get up there, and then you can see that she actually fails there when she's up, so that pace might have been what caught her. If we were trying to get a pacey movement, that might be a better system to look at, as long as we can find a technique of holding at the top of the wall. This though, it shows a lot stronger now. The non-fatigue side shows a lot stronger and more controlled motion. Now my dilemma here is, do I want that? Do I want that slow controlled motion but increase the time under tension per rep? Or do I want to just bash the reps out with a good enough form and try and keep the time under tension down, so the workload down? And that's something that I need to discuss with Kaiser. If we decide that actually we prefer this technique that's fatigued, but we'd like to keep the control of the non-fatigue side, then we're going to have to work on something about decelerating this motion, which is double shoulder flexion with hip extension, and so and knee flexion. So that would be interesting to work out how we could do that. I'm thinking there's something fixed position related we could do there, but it would be interesting. So let's just resync these, and then let's have a look after we've gone by the one. There we go. And so we've gone by the one where Kaiser sort of falls, and now we're at the top end of that range. So you'll see that there's a lot more lean back. There's on the fatigue side than the non-fatigue side. Just put that down a little. So at the top of that motion, look, seems there's a lot more lean back. She's quicker to get down to the mat. She's quicker to get her legs in, and then it's a kick out. So it's a lot more pacey on the fatigue. Now what you might be seeing here is, if you know about fatigue, you might be seeing something called the spurt. So this is kind of cool, because if we look at the psychology behind the movement, and not all of this might be conscious, but if we look at the psychology, here we have a client that's preparing to do a whole hour session, and so what you're seeing is a more conservative version of the movement, because you're seeing someone who knows that they've got to perform more exercise. And it would be similar to if you start tracking a runner. At the beginning of their run, they'd hold their pace at a pace that they believe they could stay at. However, when you get to the end of a run, and so this is that end fatigue point, if you sort of go with the central governor theory, which is by a guy called Noakes, then what you'd say is at the end, you now not got long to go, so you can dip further into your reserves, and you get what he calls a spurt. So you get a rush of energy that allows you to perform faster and sort of with more energy, so more intensity, more power output. And maybe what you're seeing here is you are seeing a lack of control, but that might be you're seeing that because now you're seeing a more aggressive and faster movement. Whereas on the non-fatigue side, you're seeing someone who's pacing themselves for the whole session. And so we're kind of getting a trend now. After seeing 3 of the movements over a week, we're getting a trend that if we want to really push an exercise for fatigue, which is something that we'll need to do for CrossFit, but not necessarily something you want to do in all programs. It may be where we want to get the most sort of muscular adaptation, the most energy system adaptation. We're going to have to start putting that towards the end of the session. Maybe even not telling our client it's there, just so we can get to that point of overload in a more efficient way. Obviously, we've got to watch there for volume, and we've got to watch for potential injury risk, which in this case would be a shoulder, just because that was there was a previous injury in that shoulder. With a client that had no injuries, the only injury risk we look for is like a slip or a fall under fatigue. So my conclusion here is we've done 3 sessions now. We've got a really strong athlete, and I think as we start to build the program and push on, really to get our strong athlete to get better, and to find that extra percentage that's there for definite, but the extra percentage that is hard to get at because our athlete's already so far into their potential. Now we're going to have to look at the whole psychology of the session and the timing of where we put the exercises. And so our next discussion will be a little more tactical with Kaiser as we start to work out what exercise needs most improvement, where she needs most improvement for her performance in CrossFit. I'm already sensing now it won't be on the lifting, and it'll be more on the gymnastic or cardiovascular side of the workouts. And so that's something we need to deal with on a planning level for the psychology of getting the highest level performance we can, and then that will link into how we can control that against volume and still get an adaptation, a muscular adaptation, an energy system adaptation, and also keep the skill level at a high level too. I hope this has been interesting to you. I kind of did this as I saw it, rather than look through and have a plan of what to say, because I want you to get the real effect of what happens when you know the stuff from our course, but you still have to work through it. And no matter how many times you go away and learn, one of the cool things about this is you get to relearn every time you see a new client, and this is just great. Later on this week we'll be doing some stuff with running, and then that will link in so I can show you some of the ways we've looked at fatigue and how we might train runners of all distances and around that fatigue. Thanks for listening. Please look around the site. It helps apparently with our SEO and stuff, which would be nice of you. Also, it'd be great if you could have a look at the courses, see if you like any, perhaps jump on and become another part of the big, growing, faster family. Okay, thanks. Bye.